everyone, and welcome to Real Wood Matters, a real wood podcast where we discuss the ins and outs of the forest products industry, from forest management to furniture trends. We hear all the time lately about supply chains. In this episode, we welcome someone who can shed a lot of light on that topic, Ben Bevins, a lumber buyer at Havco Wood Products. Welcome, Ben.
Good morning.
Tell us about yourself.
So, me and my wife live in Milburn, Kentucky, right outside of Mayfield, and we have 3 boys. Our oldest fixing to turn 5, and a 15-month-old, and a 5-month-old.
Whew.
Busy life.
Busy household, indeed.
Very much so.
Well, you work for Havco Wood Products. What
Correct.
do they do, and what do you do for them?
So, we are a truck trailer manufacturing company. We make truck trailer flooring for dry van trailers. We have 2 plants, one in Von Orr, Tennessee, and the one that I buy for, which is located in Scott City, Missouri, right below Cape Girardeau.
Okay. Walk us through your process.
So we buy rough sawn green oak, mostly red oak, a little bit of white oak, and from sawmills located all over the country, from central Illinois down to southern Mississippi. And bring the lumber in green, rough sawn. We dry it and manufacture it into what looks like a product very similar to butcher block. And that's what they put in the floor for dry van trailers.
Okay. And what do people use those trailers for?
So really hauls freight from groceries to you name it. Anything goes in a dry van. When you're running up and down the road, you know, most of the trailers that you see could be Amazon or Walmart. Would have a very similar floor in it, or that
so
floor.
You have your thumb in all of those, in all that transportation. What do you find most satisfying about what you do? Can you share a transaction or two that really made your day or your month or your year?
You know, so I kind of grew up in the industry. My dad was a lumber buyer pretty much since he got out of college. And when we were young, me and my brothers would often go with him to lumber meetings, and we got to know a lot of people in the industry. And that's probably one of the biggest things that I appreciate about my job is just the camaraderie and the it's like a family. You know, the hardwood industry is like a family, and we just, you know, from a lot of the sawmills are family owned, and you get to be very close with people, and just you build a friendship. You know, and I'd call all of them family.
Yay. That's even better than a transaction.
That's right. Past business, yep.
What have you and Havco found most challenging lately in recent past?
That's a good question. One of the biggest things that I see, and it's really to the industry as a whole, is just the lack of demand that the sawmills face. You know, we rely on the sawmills. They're the producers. Without them, we wouldn't have a product to build a floor out of. And so, you know, the struggles that they face essentially are our struggles as well. And that's something that's very concerning. You know, there's just not the demand that there used to be for their products. You know, we're a small piece of the pie. They have to sell the rest of the lumber outside of what we buy to stay in business. And it's shrinking. You know, you can look back to the late 90s, early 2000s, and we were producing somewhere in the neighborhood of 13 to 14 billion feet of hardwood lumber a year. And, you know, last year I think we were right around 4. And essentially it's still too much. You know, there's been a lot of struggles in moving products for the sawmills. And so that's probably my biggest fear. It directly affects all the people I buy from.
That's what keeps you up at night.
Correct. That would be the one.
What do you have to do to clear those hurdles? What help do you need? And from whom?
Well, you know, this is kind of what's cool about these associations and networking with other companies outside of our own. You know, the last couple of years, I would say we as well as the sawmills have relied very heavily on the tie buyers and the railroad tie companies. You know, they've done a great job in supporting the producers and keeping the sawmills afloat, essentially. So we depend very heavily on them, and the export markets play a factor in it as well. You know, they're a big big help, strictly for the sawmills. In turn, that helps us. What we buy is the low-grade product that the sawmills produce, and it's a very, very small piece of the pie.
So that's not going into my floors or my cabinets or...
We would compete with the hardwood flooring industry.
Hardwood flooring, yeah.
Yeah, not so much the cabinets, but hardwood flooring would be very similar.
When you're not buying lumber for Havco, how do you like to spend your time?
Well, with the 3 young boys, keeps me pretty busy, but I still try and hunt and fish as much as I can. Love being outside, and the boys are picking that up as well, so it works pretty good. We spend a lot of time outside. Fantastic.
What do you fish for?
Largemouth bass.
Oh, okay.
Big-time bass fisherman, and crappie occasionally.
Do you cook them?
Crappie, absolutely.
Yes. How did you get involved with the Missouri Forest Products Association?
So kind of interesting. Hadn't really even heard about them until I took this job about 3 years ago. And the gentleman who was retiring that I was replacing, he kept telling me about this meeting in Branson every summer. And you just couldn't miss it. I mean, it was on the calendar. It was top of the list every year. You went to Branson to this meeting. And so that was actually my first experience with the Missouri Forest Products Association, was going to that meeting. And they've just become family.
Think about the places you shop, from a Costco or Sam's Club, or to a Target or Walmart, or your local grocery store. What do all these stores have in common? They use tractor trailers to haul their products on wood pallets. Those wood pallets most likely come from the state of Missouri. The Missouri Forest Products industry makes a lot more than just wood pallets shipping your favorite snacks from warehouse to store. Real Missouri wood products span industries and interests like hardwood floors, charcoal, bourbon barrels, railroad ties, furniture, fencing, siding, animal bedding, home building materials, fuel for homes and businesses, and so many more. Next time you walk through the aisles of your favorite store or browse online, think about all the real Missouri wood products you can purchase. Because when you choose wood, you support the more than 42,000 Missourians in the wood products industry. For more information on the benefits of real Missouri wood products, visit choosewood.com.
I hear you have a knack for auctioneering. In fact, I don't just hear it, I've seen it in living color. So how did you get into that? And how does auctioneering fit in with MFPA?
Well, it's definitely one of my favorite hobbies. I would still consider it a hobby. I guess I just took interest in it. I was probably about 10 or 12, somewhere in that range. And
had your voice even changed yet?
I wouldn't say so.
So you were a
Some
high-pitched...
days I'm not sure if it has yet, but I wouldn't say so.
You were a high-pitched auctioneer initially?
A little bit. But we had a gentleman actually doing some drywalling in our house, and he liked to tinker around with it. And he was up on a ladder. I heard him just selling away as he was working, and it just totally intrigued me. And I thought, that's pretty neat. So we started going around to some local sales, me and my older brother, and just took an interest to it. Of course, then you jump on YouTube and you start listening to people and trying to learn it yourself, and it's just kind of progressed from there, I guess. It's a little bit of an addiction.
Can you even estimate how much money you've raised over the years?
I'd be scared to guess.
Really?
A lot.
A lot. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, what's the most memorable auction item or the fiercest auction battle you've witnessed?
Oh boy, that's a good question. There's probably two that would pop in my mind right away. And one was actually from the first auction I ever worked, and I think I was 12. It was just a local fundraiser for a school. And funny enough, it was a set of cornhole boards, the cornhole game, that had been painted up John Deere colors. And there were a couple gentlemen both bidding against each other that were farmers, both of the John Deere persuasion. And it got wild. Of course, I hadn't seen much of, bidding wars, so to speak, starting off like that. And I just remember being totally impressed at how, they just never would quit. And one of them would bid, and I'd kind of ag on the next one, and he'd bid, and they just back and forth. I think it ended up bringing north of $800 before it was all said and done. But that was definitely a huge moment for me, just realizing that this is, how cool this is and how well it works.
Yeah.
And the next thing I would say, probably the most memorable for me, was a fundraiser we were doing for a school down in Tennessee, and there was a lady that in the local community that had been going through some struggles, and a group of, well, let's see, one of her friends had donated a plate of whoopie pies. Do you know what whoopie pies are?
I do know what whoopie pies are.
They are delicious. And so one of her friends had donated a plate of them, and there was a group of truckers that were at the sale that had decided that they were going to bid against each other and just make that plate of whoopie pies bring crazy money and donate the proceeds to this lady. And I kind of had caught hints about it, but I didn't know how far they were going to go. And so a little bit of warning would have helped. But we got going on it, and it went wild. And, I mean, by the time it was done, the whole room, everybody was standing, and just, I don't think there was a dry eye in the place. But it brought somewhere in the neighborhood of $1,200 to $1,400. And, of course, then they turned around and gave her the plate of whoopie pies as well.
Oh.
So you couldn't have wrote it any better.
Perfect. I bet you've witnessed a few things like that where...
A few. It never ceases to amaze me, just the generosity that you come across at those fundraising events. That's probably the most fun you can have with a microphone.
Well, I really do hate to put you on the spot, but can you give us like a 20-second taste of your auctioneering skills?
You're not the first person to do that.
Oh, good. Well, so let's say I have a big, beautiful Missouri white oak whiskey barrel that you have to auction off.
I like it.
What would that sound like?
Well, let's do it. Are you ready?
Right.
And here we go. And how many $100? And somebody give 100. Hit 100. I made it on beard 125. 50. Down 75. Hit it on beard 100 body $100. 125. And now 50. I'd 150. Give 75. I'd 175. Hit it on beard $75. Buck 175. And now 2. Hit $200. I made it on beard 2 in a body $200. I made it on beard 175's bid. I need 200. Are we done? I'd 175. $2 I made it on beard 200. And I'd had sold it to you $175. Put it on buyer number Kelly's Way. Put it on Kelly's Way.
I love it. That's so much fun. And I'm thrilled I got to see it at the MFPA summer meeting last year. There were some hotly contested items.
Absolutely. There's never a dull moment at that one.
None indeed. If people want to find you to either buy lumber or to auction off an item or 10 or 20 for them, how do they reach you?
My cell phone is the best way.
Okay.
I am on Facebook. I'm not an expert at it. But, might just give me a call or text.
Okay. Do you want to read that out?
Sure. 270-970-2382 is my cell number. And if I don't answer, just text. A lot of times I'm away from it. But give me a text. I'll get back to it as quick as I can.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. Now we'll talk a little bit more about the forest. And from what I understand, lots of Missouri Forest Products Association members do business outside of Missouri. They collaborate with companies in other states. What can you tell us about your experience with doing business across state lines or even in foreign countries?
That's a great question. Now, I've never really got into foreign countries, but I'd cross the state lines fairly regularly. And, it's very similar. Other states have their forests that they're trying to manage, just looks like Missouri is. And especially in our region, we kind of cover Kentucky and Tennessee and Mississippi and a little bit of Arkansas and up into Missouri. And very, very similar. You see kind of the same setups, across the region. A lot of small family-run sawmills, smaller producers. And one of the things that we've noticed, especially once you get further east, they're facing a lot more of a lot larger struggle in moving their pulpwood. And so we've seen a serious decline in loggers once you go further east. And so that's very concerning as well. But across the board, it's very, very similar to the way folks in Missouri do business.
Why does it matter to foster collaboration between companies and organizations in the wood products industry? What difference does it make?
That's a good question. One of the things that I have benefited from, with as far as having relationships with folks outside of kind of our little niche in the industry, would be, many, many times I can look back where maybe other lumber buyers or folks just in different sectors of the industry have reached out to me maybe trying to help some of their own suppliers move some of their products. And it's been a big help to me, especially when I've been struggling, to get in what we need. So that is always appreciated. And, I think that goes both ways. I do the same for them. It's like I said, it's all a family. We all work together in this. None of us are the complete solution. It takes everybody to make it work.
And finally, in your own words, what difference does MFP or can MFPA make for its members? Members like you and Havco, what benefits have you seen from MFPA?
It's all about the fellowshipping and the networking. That's been just unbelievable to me. And, it's like they say in most any industry, it's about who you know and, knowing the right people. And that is why I would encourage anybody, really no matter what state you're in, but especially Missouri, to be involved and join your state association and support them. And even on a national level, you can support the National Hardwood Lumber Association and be involved because that is the future of the industry.
And go to that meeting in Branson.
Absolutely.
Where they get a big, and the winter meeting too, that's more of a advocacy meeting. It's in Jefferson City and lobbying, but that summer meeting, they'll get a big taste of your auctioneering skills again.
Well, we guarantee a good time anyways.
It is indeed a good time. Well, today's episode is going once, going twice, sold. Until next time, thanks to Ben Bevins, and thank you to our sponsor, Choose Wood. Thank you for listening, and as always, choose wood.